November is just around the corner, and I've been thinking about the changes that will affect all of us, especially those of you who have decades of life experience and wisdom behind you. This time of year brings unique shifts that are worth preparing for. If you're ready to make this November your best one yet, leave a comment saying prepared. After observing patterns and talking with people across the country, I want to share 5 important things you should expect this November. These aren't complicated predictions. These are practical changes that will directly impact your daily life and overall well-being. First, energy costs will rise significantly. The first thing to prepare for is the annual November increase in heating and energy costs. This year, experts are predicting a 12–15% increase in natural gas prices and a 7–10% increase in electricity costs in most regions as winter demand kicks in. For those of you living on fixed incomes, these increases can be particularly challenging. An extra $50 or $100 per month might not sound like much to some people, but I understand that for many of you, that's a significant portion of your monthly budget. Here's what you can do now. Contact your utility company immediately about budget billing options that spread costs evenly throughout the year. Ask about senior discount programs. Many utilities offer them, but don't advertise them prominently. Consider a simple energy audit of your home. Many community organizations offer these for free to seniors. Make small changes now. Lowering your thermostat just 2 degrees during sleeping hours can reduce your bill by up to 10%. I recently spoke with Martha, a 72-year-old living in Minnesota who saved nearly $200 last winter by simply sealing her windows properly and using thick curtains. My son helped me put plastic sheeting on the windows and weather stripping around the doors. It took one afternoon and made a huge difference. She told me Martha has lived in the same 2-bedroom home for over 40 years. It's a modest place with good bones, as she describes it, but like many older homes, it has its drafty spots. I used to think that feeling a little cold breeze was just part of winter living, she explained. I didn't realize how much heat I was losing and how much money I was wasting. What impressed me about Martha wasn't just the money she saved, but her practical approach to the problem. She didn't rush to expensive solutions like replacing all her windows, which would have cost thousands. Instead, she focused on simple, affordable fixes that she could maintain herself. After my husband passed away 5 years ago, I had to learn to be more resourceful. She shared my fixed income doesn't stretch as far as it used to, especially with prices going up everywhere. Beyond the window ceiling, Martha made other small changes that added up to significant savings. She started using her programmable thermostat effectively, setting it to automatically lower temperatures at night and when she visits her sister on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She also rearranged her furniture to keep seating areas away from exterior walls and drafty windows. My neighbor laughed when I told him I was moving my reading chair to the inside wall. Martha chuckled, but he stopped laughing when I showed him my utility bills compared to his. Now he's doing the same thing. Martha's story is a perfect example of the practical wisdom that comes with decades of experience managing a household. Simple solutions consistently applied often work better than expensive, complicated ones. This November, consider doing what Martha did. Take an afternoon to address those drafty spots before the coldest weather hits. The investment of a few hours, and perhaps $20 in supplies, could save you hundreds of dollars over the winter months. Second, holiday shopping dynamics are changing. The second change to expect involves holiday shopping patterns, which begin in earnest this November. This year is different from previous years in several important ways. Traditional Black Friday deals are starting earlier, many as early as November 1st, but they're also less substantial than in years past. Retailers are spreading discounts across the entire month, rather than concentrating them on a single day or weekend. Why does this matter to you? Because the best time to purchase gifts for family members will be earlier in the month, not during the traditional Thanksgiving weekend sales. Analysis of pricing data from the past 3 years shows that items commonly purchased as gifts for grandchildren, electronics, toys, clothing are actually priced 15–20% lower in early November than during the official sale weekends later in the month. For those on fixed incomes, this strategic approach to holiday shopping can make a significant difference. My friend Richard, who lives on Social Security and a small pension, told me he saved nearly $300 last year by purchasing gifts for his grandchildren during early November rather than waiting for Black Friday. The stores want you to think you're getting the best deal if you wait, he said, but I've been tracking prices for years, and that's just not true anymore. Plus, shopping early means I avoid the crowds, which is important at my age. If you're planning to purchase gifts this season, start looking now. Make a list, set a budget, and watch for those early November discounts rather than waiting for the heavily advertised sales events later in the month. Third, a surprising shift in family communication. The third change you'll notice this November involves how families are connecting across generations. There's a remarkable new trend emerging just in time for the holiday season. Young people are returning to phone calls and in-person visits rather than relying solely on text messages and social media. Recent surveys show that over 65% of young adults are making more effort to have voice or face-to-face conversations with older family members, particularly during the holiday season. Why the sudden shift? Many young people are experiencing digital burnout and rediscovering the value of more personal forms of communication. Something you've likely understood all along. This November, expect more phone calls from your children and grandchildren. They may not text as often, but they'll be reaching out in ways that allow for deeper connection. Many are also planning longer visits during the holiday season rather than brief stop-ins. Marie, a 78-year-old grandmother from Georgia, told me about her surprise when her teenage grandchildren requested weekly phone calls instead of their usual text exchanges. At first, I thought something was wrong. She laughed. But they told me they just missed hearing my voice and having real conversations. Now, our Sunday calls are the highlight of my week. This November, be ready for these more meaningful connections. Keep your phone charged and accessible. Consider setting regular call times when family members know you'll be available. And don't be surprised if younger family members ask for your stories and advice in ways they haven't before. Fourth, the return of community gatherings. The fourth thing to expect this November is the revival of in-person community activities, specifically designed with older adults in mind. After several years of limited social gatherings, community centers, libraries, and religious organizations across the country are launching new November programs that foster connection. These aren't the same old senior activities from years past. They're thoughtfully designed events that recognize the wisdom and contributions of older community members. Look for wisdom exchange events, where community members of all ages gather to share practical knowledge. These popular new programs typically feature older adults teaching valuable life skills. Everything from cooking family recipes and basic home repairs to financial wisdom and gardening techniques. Thomas, a 75-year-old former woodworker in Pennsylvania, recently led a simple furniture repair workshop at his local library. I thought maybe a few people would show up, he told me. Instead, the room was packed with people of all ages. They were taking notes like I was teaching gold mining. Turns out knowing how to fix a wobbly table or a squeaky door is something many younger folks never learned. This November, check your local community center, library, or place of worship for these new types of gatherings. Many begin in November as communities prepare for the winter months. Not only will you find meaningful ways to contribute, but you'll also build connections that can sustain you through the more isolating winter season. I visited one of these community gatherings in a small town in Ohio. The local library had transformed their meeting room into what they called a community skills exchange. They had set up 5 different stations, each hosted by a community member, over 65 sharing a different practical skill. The energy in the room was remarkable. At one table, an 83-year-old former seamstress named Dorothy was showing people how to properly mend clothing. Fast fashion has made people forget how to extend the life of good garments, she explained while demonstrating how to replace a zipper. I've had some of my clothes for 30 years because I know how to maintain them properly. What struck me most was the genuine engagement between generations. College students were taking notes, as if they were in the most important class of their lives. Young parents were bringing items that needed repair, learning how to fix them instead of replace them. James, a 79-year-old retired electrician, had a table where he taught basic home electrical safety and simple repairs. I'm showing them how to safely replace a light fixture or fix a lamp. He told me, these aren't complicated skills, but if you never learned them, they seem intimidating. At another station, Gloria, a 75-year-old who had managed her family farm's books for decades, was sharing practical budgeting techniques that didn't involve apps or complicated spreadsheets. I'm teaching the envelope method, she said with a smile. I worked before computers, and it works now. When the money in the envelope is gone, you stop spending in that category. Simple as that. The library director told me these monthly skill exchanges have become their most popular program. We started this just 6 months ago with maybe 10 participants. She explained, now we regularly have 50 to 60 people attending, and we've had to create a waiting list for seniors who want to share their knowledge. What makes these gatherings different from traditional senior activities is the focus on exchange rather than entertainment. Rather than being passive participants, older adults are the featured experts actively sharing valuable skills with the broader community. Howard, a 72-year-old former high school chemistry teacher, hosts a monthly session on household science. I show people how to make their own cleaning products that work better than store-bought and cost a fraction of the price. He explained, "My grandmother taught me these formulas and they still work perfectly today." After each session, participants gather for refreshments and conversation. These informal discussions often prove just as valuable as the formal presentations. The questions people ask during the social time are sometimes more personal. Dorothy told me they'll ask about how I managed raising 4 children while working full-time or how we handled financial setbacks. It becomes about life wisdom, not just practical skills. These gatherings serve multiple purposes. They provide meaningful social connection. They preserve valuable practical knowledge that might otherwise be lost. They create intergenerational relationships that extend beyond the events themselves. And perhaps most importantly, they reposition older adults as valued contributors rather than people who need assistance. If your community doesn't yet have these types of gatherings, consider suggesting them to your local library or community center. Most are eager to host programs that bring generations together in meaningful ways. And don't underestimate the skills you have to share. Knowledge you might take for granted could be exactly what someone else needs to learn. Fifth, a new appreciation for weather wisdom. The fifth change this November involves something you might not expect. A growing appreciation for traditional weather prediction knowledge, particularly from older adults who learned to read natural science before modern weather technology existed. With weather patterns becoming increasingly unpredictable, many communities are rediscovering the value of observational wisdom that's been passed down through generations. The knowledge you may have learned from your parents or grandparents about predicting weather by observing animals, plants, and natural patterns is becoming recognized as complementary to modern forecasting methods. Local news stations and weather services are actively seeking input from older community members who have decades of experience observing local weather patterns. Many are featuring weather wisdom segments where older residents share traditional prediction methods specific to their region. Eleanor, an 82-year-old who has lived her entire life in a rural Vermont community, was recently interviewed by her local news station about her weather prediction techniques. "My father taught me to watch the woolly bear caterpillars in autumn. The width of their brown bands can tell you about the coming winter. People used to laugh when I mentioned these old ways, but now they're calling me to ask what I'm observing. This November, pay attention to the natural signs you've learned to associate with weather changes. Share your observations with family members. You might be surprised at the interest your knowledge generates, particularly from those concerned about upcoming winter weather." Many communities are also creating weather journals where residents record observations, creating a valuable resource that combines traditional knowledge with modern data tracking. Check if your local library or community center is participating in such an initiative. What this means for you. These 5 changes: rising energy costs, shifting holiday shopping patterns, new family communication trends, community gathering opportunities, and renewed appreciation for weather wisdom will bring both challenges and opportunities this November. By understanding what's coming and taking proactive steps, you can navigate these changes successfully. You've weathered countless changes throughout your lifetime, from technological revolutions to cultural shifts. You have the wisdom and experience to handle these too. I believe that those who have lived longest often have the best perspective on life's changes. You understand the difference between passing trends and meaningful shifts, between what requires immediate attention and what can be observed with patience. You know how to adapt while holding on to what matters most. This November, trust that wisdom. Use your experience. Engage with your community in these new ways, knowing that your perspective and knowledge are increasingly valued resources in our rapidly changing world. Finally, the renewed appreciation for traditional knowledge gives you a chance to preserve and pass on skills and wisdom that might otherwise be lost. Many seniors report a profound sense of purpose and satisfaction when sharing knowledge they feared would die with them. As William, an 83-year-old in Vermont, expressed, "I thought no one cared about the old ways anymore. Now I have young families visiting every week to learn skills I took for granted." This November also brings practical benefits in your daily life. The growing emphasis on traditional wisdom means more programs designed with seniors in mind, not as recipients of services but as valued contributors. Watch for new transportation options, community meal programs, and intergenerational housing initiatives beginning this month in many communities. For those concerned about winter isolation, November is bringing expanded telephone check-in programs where volunteers make regular calls to seniors living alone. These aren't just safety checks, they're becoming meaningful connections between generations. Joan, a 79-year-old widow in Michigan, told me her weekly calls from a college student volunteer have become the highlight of my week. We talk about everything from current events to relationship advice. She actually values my perspective. The financial challenges of November, particularly around energy costs, are being addressed through new community support programs that recognize seniors' contributions, rather than treating assistance as charity. Many communities are establishing wisdom exchange programs where seniors can earn credits toward utility assistance by sharing skills and knowledge with community members. Above all, this November brings a shift in how seniors are perceived and valued in our society. After decades of youth-centric culture, communities are rediscovering the essential role of elder wisdom in creating resilient, connected neighborhoods. Your lifetime of experience navigating challenges, building relationships, and finding joy in simple pleasures is exactly what many are seeking as we enter the winter months. So, as November approaches, recognize that these changes aren't just events happening around you. There are opportunities for meaningful engagement, contribution, and connection that can enhance your life while enriching your community. Your perspective isn't outdated, it's essential. Your experience isn't irrelevant, it's invaluable. And the wisdom you've gained through decades of living isn't a relic of the past. It's a resource for building a better future. Share this message if you found it helpful in preparing for November. Subscribe for more practical conversations about navigating today's world with the wisdom of experience. And please leave a comment sharing your own observations about seasonal changes. Your knowledge might help someone else who's preparing for the month ahead. Music,